Illinois and Iowa. Illinois bus ride. A farmer and his son are out in the yard, pulling a crosscut saw through the innards of an ancient cottonwood. The tree is so large and so old that only a foot of blade is left to pull on. Time was when that tree was a buoy in the prairie sea. George Rogers Clark may have camped under it. Buffalo may have nooned in its shade, switching flies. Every spring it roosted fluttering pigeons. It is the best historical library, short of the State College, but once a year it sheds cotton on the farmers' window screens. Of these two facts, only the second is important. The State College tells farmers that Chinese elms do not clog screens, and hence are preferable to cottonwoods. It likewise pontificates on cherry preserves, bangs disease, hybrid corn, and beautifying the farm home. The only thing it does not know about farms is where they come from. Its job is to make Illinois safe for soybeans. I am sitting in a 60-mile-an-hour bus sailing over a highway originally laid out for horse and buggy. The ribbon of concrete has been widened and widened until the field fences threaten to topple into the road cuts. In the narrow thread of sod between the shaved banks and the toppling fences grow the relics of what once was Illinois. The prairie. No one in the bus sees these relics. A worried farmer, his fertilizer bill projecting from his shirt pocket, looks blankly at the lupines, lespedezas, or baptisias that originally pumped nitrogen out of the prairie air and into his black loamy acres. He does not distinguish them from the parvenu quackgrass in which they grow. Were I to ask him why his corn makes 100 bushels, while that of non-prairie states does well to make 30, he would probably answer that Illinois' soil is better. Were I to ask him the name of that white spike of pea-like flowers hugging the fence, he would shake his head. A weed, likely. A cemetery flashes by, its borders alight with prairie puccones. There are no puccones elsewhere. Dog fennels and sow whistles supply the yellow motif for the modern landscape. Puccoons converse only with the dead. Through the open window I hear the heart-stirring whistle of an upland plover. Time was when his forebears followed the buffalo as they trudged shoulder-deep through an illimitable garden of forgotten blooms. A boy spies the bird and remarks to his father, "There goes a snipe." The sign says you are entering the Green River Soil Conservation District. Its smaller type is a list of who is cooperating. The letters are too small to be read from a moving bus. It must be a rooster of who's who in conservation. The sign is neatly painted. It stands in a creek bottom pasture so short you could play golf on it. Nearby is the grateful loop of an old dry creek bed. The new creek bed is ditched straight as a ruler. It has been uncurled by the county engineer to hurry the runoff. On the hill in the background are contoured strip crops. They have been curled by the erosion engineer to retard the runoff. The water must be confused by so much advice. Everything on this farm spells money in the bank. The farmstead abounds in fresh paint, steel, and concrete. A date on the barn commemorates the founding fathers. The roof bristles with lightning rods. The weathercock is proud with new gilt. Even the pigs look solvent. The old oaks in the woodlot are without issue. There are no hedges, brush patches, fence rows, or other signs of shiftless husbandry. The cornfield has fat steers, but probably no quail. The fences stand on narrow ribbons of sod. Whoever plowed that close to barbed wires must have been saying, waste not, want not. In the creek bottom pasture, flood trash is lodged high in the bushes. The creek banks are raw. Chunks of Illinois have sloughed off and moved seaward. Patches of giant ragweed mark where freshets have thrown down the silt they could not carry. Just who is solvent? For how long? The highway stretches like a taut tape across the corn, oats, and clover fields. The bus ticks off the opulent miles. The passengers talk and talk and talk. About what? About baseball, taxes, son-in-laws, movies, motors, and funerals, but never about the heaving groundswell of Illinois that washes the windows of the speeding bus. Illinois has no genesis, no history. No shoals or deeps, no tides of life and death. To them, Illinois is only the sea on which they sail to points unknown. Red legs kicking. When I call to mind my earliest impressions, I wonder whether the process ordinarily referred to as growing up is not actually a process of growing down, whether experience, so much touted among adults as the thing children lack, is not actually a progressive dilution of the essentials by the trivialities of living. This much at least is sure. My earliest impressions of wildlife and its pursuit retain a vivid sharpness of form, color, and atmosphere that half a century of professional wildlife experience has failed to obliterate or to improve upon. Like most aspiring hunters, I was given, at an early age, a single-barreled shotgun and permission to hunt rabbits. One winter Saturday, en route to my favorite rabbit patch, I noticed that the lake, when covered with ice and snow, had developed a small air hole at a point where windmill discharged warm water from the shore. All ducks had long since departed southward, but I then and there formulated my first ornithological hypothesis. If there were a duck left to the region, he or she would invariably, sooner or later, drop in at this air hole. I suppressed my appetite for rabbits, then no mean feat. Sat down in the cold smartweeds on the frozen mud, and waited. I waited all afternoon, growing colder with each passing crow, and with each rheumatic groan of the laboring windmill. Finally, at sunset, a lone black duck came out of the west, and without even a preliminary circling of the air hole, set his wings and pitched downward. I cannot remember the shot. I remember only my unspeakable delight when my first duck hit the snowy ice with a thud and lay there, belly up, red legs kicking. When my father gave me the shotgun, he said I might hunt partridges with it, but that I might not shoot them from the trees. I was old enough, he said, to learn wing shooting. My dog was good at treeing partridge, and to forgo a sure shot in the tree in favor of a hopeless one at the fleeing bird was my first exercise in ethical codes. Compared with a treed partridge, the devil and his 7 kingdoms was a mild temptation. At the end of my second season of featherless partridge hunting, I was walking one day through an aspen thicket when a big partridge rose with a roar at my left and, towering over the aspens, crossed behind me, hell-bent for the nearest cedar swamp. It was a swing shot of the sort that the partridge hunter dreams about, and the bird tumbled dead in a shower of feathers and golden leaves. I could draw a map today of each clump of red bunchberry and each blue aster that adorned the mossy spot where he lay. My first partridge on the wing. I suspect my present affection for bunchberries and aster dates from that moment.